Nelson Mandela was one of the most influential people of our times. He fought for the advancements of human rights, charity work and by spreading peace throughout the world. Today we will be examining who Nelson Mandela is, what made him so popular, and how has he been remembered. Nelson Mandela was born into the Xhosa clan in the village of Mvezo in Mthatha, South Africa's Cape Province. Nelson was first given the forename Ralala. His father was Gadla Henry Mfakanyiswa, a local chief and a polygamist. Nelson was born to Gadla's third wife, Noskini Fanny. He only received the name Nelson because of a teacher choosing an English name for him, as that was common practice for Africa at that time. Nelson Mandela grew up to be a huge and influential political figure that supported the anti-apartheid movement. He went to university, where he met his comrade Oliver Tambo. He got suspended from university and left without a degree. However, many years later he became more involved in politics, and after taking part in multiple strikes, rallies and protests, reading up on communist literature and finally joining the ANC, the African National Congress, in the 1950s he became president of the very said group. He spent the next 50 years acting against the apartheid law that was introduced in 1948, enforced by the National Party as a form of segregation, mainly to divide the blacks from the whites, because of the huge racist agenda of the white Europeans having been of a much higher social class and actually being seen as socially acceptable human beings. This incredibly racially driven political system was used to push their white supremacist agenda and to remain in power in the African government. During this time of political protests, the African authorities wanted to silence him and the rest of the ANC in any way possible. They managed to ban him from publicly speaking on 3 different occasions, and on December 1956 he, along with many other high-ranking ANC members, were jailed for high treason against the state. This has been cited as highly controversial for the numerous protests to release them without any sort of condition or extra charge. He later was released, but after the Sharpeville massacre he decided he needed to change his plans from peaceful protests to guerrilla warfare. He went around the world requiring money, supporters and followers. However, when he returned to South Africa in 1962, he was arrested for many reasons, from leaving the country illegally to sabotage. Although multiple politically powerful people tried to sway the court to release them, and Nelson Mandela giving his 3-hour "I am prepared to die" speech. The prosecution had called for the death penalty, but the judge eventually sentenced him to life imprisonment. He, along with the other accused people, was transferred to Robben Island prison. He stayed in prison until 1990, when current African President P.W. Botha suffered a stroke and stepped down as president to W. de Klerk. Botha had a friendly chat with Nelson Mandela, where he pardoned his prison sentence. He also talked with W. de Klerk discussing the apartheid law and politics in general. The ANC was reinstated with Nelson Mandela as its president, and in 1994 he had become president of South Africa and ended the apartheid law by vote of both white people and black people, effectively taking a huge step in ending racism for good and improving as well as enforcing human rights. He paved the way for a generation of people to not be discriminatory and for them to love and try to keep peace throughout themselves and throughout the world. He resigned the position of president in 1998, but his influence, presence and work had already been felt, and for his efforts he won a number of awards, including the Sakharov Prize, 1988, Nobel Peace Prize, 1993, Presidential Medal of Freedom, 2002, and the Gandhi Peace Prize, 2001. Although Nelson Mandela, at age 95, died in 2013 due to a lung infection and old age, he has been known as one of the most influential humans in the world. God rest his soul. Nelson Mandela, 1918 to 2013.